And on letting up, I'm going on a hunt. Music Mafia all up in my blunt. All right, YouTube. We got the darkest moments in his TV history. 6. This video is from my man's Nick Crowley. Make sure y'all go show love to his channel. Run him up. He about to hit 3 mil subs. Get him there. Without any further ado, let's get straight.
If you don't sub,
your mammy can't save you. I'ma tie your ass up. I'ma
I really hope you didn't think you were escaping.
if you don't sub,
your mammy can't save you. I'ma tie your ass up. I'ma
Nah, for real though. I really hope you did not think you were escaping that motherfucking.
if you don't sub,
your mammy can't save you. I'ma tie your ass up. I'ma
Nigga, sub, nigga, or I'ma tie your ass up, nigga. I'ma fucking ass.
Has really shaken up this Monk's Corner neighborhood. One resident said she was too worried about her. Has really
Flash warning. Flashing
shaken up
images
this
shown.
Monk's-
The following video contains things that may be upsetting and distressing for some. Topics include suicide, murder. Topics include suicide, murder, child abuse, and death. It's about to get heavy.
Corner neighborhood. One resident said she was too worried about her children to come out and talk with us. And Sheriff MC Cannon says right now he can't offer much comfort.
Can't
it was
offer
March
much
3rd,
comfort.
1989, in Berkeley County, South Carolina. 5-year-old Justin Turner leaves his home in the early morning, heading in the direction of his bus stop, where he was set to meet his neighbors. His stepmother, Megan Turner, who usually accompanied him, had been busy in the shower, while his father, Victor Turner, was off at work, leaving Justin to make this short walk alone. Later on, Megan would wait for the same bus to arrive at the end of the day, only when it did, Justin never got off. In fact, according to the bus driver and the neighbors, he never even made it on the bus in the first place. That night, Justin Turner was reported missing, and the search to find him was underway immediately. It was the third day of the search, March 5th, 1989. that yielded its biggest turnout, with volunteers from the community banding together.
Bro, I wouldn't be able to sleep if my kid is missing, bro. I would not sleep, gang. I'ma be in a V, just driving. I wouldn't be able to sleep. Lord God, stay with these people who have missing kids. I wouldn't be able to sleep, gang.
Law enforcement.
If they 17, 18, 16, okay. Right? Because I know they know where to be. They probably somewhere safe and they old enough to handle themselves. But missing at a young age, like not even on no bad terms, just missing like on some just randomly disappear one day, I'd be mad as fuck. Or not mad, but I'd be like stressed. I'd be thinking about that shit.
To help find the young boy, with the group being accompanied by a camera crew from the local Channel 2 station, as everyone shared the same hope that the child would finally be found. And so they were off, with many searchers directing their focus on the nearby woods, while others, including Justin's own family, would search closer to the property as well as its neighboring land. This included rummaging around various sheds and piles of trash, as they were made to leave no stone unturned that day, with everyone geared up for a long, grueling day of searching. Though in the end, all they needed was a few minutes.
What the hell does that mean?
my son's in there.
Nathan, that's
No
Hammer.
camera, no camera. Where is he at? Where is he at?
Oh,
With the
he was
cameras
dead?
rolling, we see the moment that Victor Turner discovered his own son.
Oh, that's like, oh, I didn't know that was real.
My son's in there.
Nathan, that's
No
Hammer.
Oh,
camera, no camera.
no, I know he was probably about to pass out. Lord Jesus, imagine looking for your son and you just see his dead body, bro. I'd be, this is actually like heavy.
In there.
Nathan, that's
No
Hammer.
camera, no camera. Where is he at? Where is he at?
Bro, look, nigga, you gonna find him.
With the cameras rolling, we see the moment that Victor Turner discovered his own son, stuffed inside an old cabinet in his own camper, with his reaction making one thing very apparent. Justin was no longer alive. The footage is devastating and made worse upon the discovery that not only was Justin dead, but he had been brutally assaulted and murdered by strangulation. But there was something even more unsettling about this footage. The fact that that very camper had already been searched in the days prior, and likely numerous times, yet somehow Justin's body was never found, meaning that whoever the killer was may have hidden him there days after the disappearance.
The latest word about the boy's grim fate.
And this is in like 1990s or 80s or something. Like, the niggas still using a little. They don't use that no more. I don't think so. I haven't seen it. Then look at the camera quality.
Shaken up this month.
This is like so Illuminati camera.
They were clearly dealing with an incredibly dangerous and deranged individual, and tracking down whoever was responsible became law enforcement in the area's top priority. Though this certainly didn't mean that results were guaranteed, as there was a severe lack of physical evidence found on the scene, making it incredibly difficult to find any definitive information as to who might have done this. And despite their best efforts,
3, 2, 1, Happy New Year!
a full year passed,
It's 1991.
and then 2, and then 3.
Happy 2000!
Then a full decade passed,
Wow.
Then
1990?
and then 3.
Wow.
From the start, Justin Turner's case was ice cold.
See? Bro, in the 90s, bro, 90s was your last moments to commit crimes, bro. In 2024, 2025, bro, you won't get away with it. If this happened in 2025, they would have had him in a hot 15 minutes. One, people are getting dumber, I feel like. Two, or at least people that commit crimes are getting dumber. I remember we used to have masterminds committing crimes. What happened? It's like all the niggas killing niggas is stupid. Cause all the niggas killing niggas. Look, it used to be the quiet kids that used to always know everything. They used to be hella smart. Them used to be the people that was killing people. Now it's the YNs. And them niggas don't even read in class. They get in class high as hell, smelling like gas, and sit down and put their head down. You feel me? So that probably why.
3. From the start, Justin Turner's case was ice cold. And in the end, it seemed clear that it would remain this way forever. Until...
Breaking news this afternoon out of Berkeley County, as the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office has made 2 arrests in the Justin Turner case.
The Berkeley County Sheriff's Office confirms that yesterday they arrested Justin's father, Victor Lee Turner, and his stepmother, Megan Renee Turner, in the upstate, both charged with murder.
35 long years after Justin Turner's body was discovered,
35 years after the murder, and they arrested the parents. That's wild.
it would be the very man who found him that
That
was
means-
charged for
that
his
means
murder,
they killed him.
along with his wife and Justin's stepmother.
Now that I'm looking
This-
back, that
for
crime
his
looks
murder.
fake as fuck. Look at him. He's looking
Along with his-
around. Look at him. He's
It would be
looking.
the very man who found him
Looked up, look around,
that
look
was
to the
charged
left,
for his murder,
look to the left,
along with
look
his
to the
wife
right.
and
It don't
Justin's
even look
stepmother.
real.
This supposedly came as a result of improved forensic technology, as well as other information that had previously been unreported. Like one account where his stepmother Megan had been overheard talking about how she and Justin had gotten into a fight that very morning, with the woman eventually laughing about it and saying, "But I won that fight." From the very beginning, Megan was always considered a suspect in this case. In fact, she had even already been arrested for his death at one point in 1990, but was swiftly released on account of a lack of physical evidence. And this lack of physical evidence is still a factor
she-
to this day,
she probably
as
thought
the
it was
recent
cooked.
arrest of this couple hinged mainly on circumstantial evidence, with one of the key pieces being that news footage. Investigators pointed out a number of strange moments in Victor's behaviors and actions that day when
Yup.
they went back and reviewed the recording, with the most glaring being that he had found his son literally seconds into the search, entering that camper and going right for the drawer that he was hidden in, almost as if he...
Oh, that's dumb as fuck. That's dumb as fuck. Now that I'm looking, that's dumb as fuck. He went in there and went right for the drawer. He didn't even like look around. That would have been the last place I checked, bitch.
When they went back and reviewed the recording, with the most glaring being
wild.
that he had found his son literally seconds into the search, entering that camper and going right for the drawer that he was hidden in, almost as if he knew where to look. And given that he owned the property and he owned the camper, it makes more sense as to how Justin's body could have seemingly just appeared there, as he and his wife were the ones who had the easiest access to it. On top of this, upon finding Justin, Victor didn't rush in to check on his condition, and he seemed to just assume he was dead despite only getting a quick glance. He didn't
Facts. Facts. He didn't. Oh my god, bro. That is crazy. I didn't even peep that. Bro, dead looked and then slid. Like he was shot in the head or something. That's what I assumed it was. Like it was clear physical damage that it was clear that he was dead. Like he's seen, bro, with a bullet in his head. That's what I thought he seen.
Rushed to
Wow.
hold him, he didn't yell out to him. He just backed
Facts.
away
He just
and
backed
told those
away.
around him that he had found his son. Shortly after, it's alleged that Victor asked a detective on the scene what would happen if a family member had done this, with this question supposedly being posed before it was even revealed that Justin had been murdered. The sheriff on the case later proclaimed about the footage, "You look at it, you look at the actions, you look at the body language. I'll let the people draw their own conclusion."
Facts.
On top of this, the same sheriff also recalled that right after the body was found, Victor and Megan basically refused to ever speak to detectives again, and they never once called in to check on the case for the entire 35 years.
Oh,
with the
what?
sheriff saying,
That would have definitely raised some suspicions. Y'all didn't. That's crazy that was 20 years ago. Like, that little ass argument you and your son got into that you killed him over don't even matter no more. He would have been a grown ass man. You never know. That nigga could have been the next LeBron James. He could have been the next billionaire. And y'all could have been living a completely different life. If you just... What is the point of having kids if you're just going to take your kid off the earth? If you're not mentally stable, don't have kids. If you're not mentally stable, you need to get taken off this earth. That's how I feel about it, bro. And ain't no recovering for you fuck niggas. Like, look what you do. You live 30, 40 years of your life. And then you kill your kid. Like, what the fuck?
After the body
30 years of your life didn't teach you that that's wrong? That you shouldn't do shit like
the
that?
people draw their own conclusion. On top of this,
Wow.
the same sheriff also recalled that right after the body was found, Victor and Megan basically refused to ever speak to detectives again, and they never once called in to check on the case for the entire 35 years.
That's crazy.
With the sheriff saying, "Nobody that I'm aware of from any of the family has ever heard from them again. I never got one phone call. Not one phone call from his daddy or stepmother. What are y'all doing about my son's death? Not one. What does that tell you?" Watching the moments that Victor found
don't
his
want him
son's
to
body,
find out.
now knowing the context, disturbing
It looks
doesn't even
fake.
begin to describe it. And the fact that it took 35 years for this couple to finally be placed behind bars is baffling.
He shouldn't even get no oxygen,
The
his
things we're
bitch
about to
ass. They need to pull the plug on that bitch ass
To be
nigga.
placed behind bars is
Take-
baffling.
Boy, I'll take that plug out your nose. Oh,
But things
pussy
we're
ass
about to
nigga. How
get
you gonna
a whole
breathe?
lot more shocking.
During our hearing, we requested that the charges against Megan and Vic be dismissed. We were very fortunate today that we got a copy of the order from the judge dismissing the charges against both Megan and Vic.
They got
As
released?
on June 7th, 2024, months after their arrest, Victor and Megan were released from prison and all charges against them were dropped, with the judge citing a lack of any new conclusive physical evidence, as well as the fact that nearly 20 people who were initially involved in the case, including witnesses and those who initially provided key testimony, had since perished, with the judge believing that it was now
Wow.
impossible to get the full story. On top of this, it was also discovered soon after the arrest, a notorious serial killer just so happened to be in the area on the day of Justin's murder. His name was Richard Ebenitz, and though it's unknown how many
What
victims
the
he truly
fuck
has,
do that have
it
to do
appears
with
that
him?
at least 4 kidnappings and 3 slayings have been attributed to him, with some of these
I
victims
don't give
being
a fuck about, bro. That nigga killed his son.
taken in broad daylight when they were getting off the bus.
Oh,
Richard
okay.
has long since passed away.
Maybe,
and there's really
yeah.
no verifiable links to prove his involvement with this crime, with this potentially being just a strange coincidence, as it is worth noting that it seems like the rest of Justin's family still believe that Victor and Megan had killed him. But all of this left the case in a position that the judge felt was unsolvable, leaving the case without conclusion and without justice.
That's wild.
Meaning that in this footage, we may never truly know if Victor had just discovered his son or his victim.
The 3-day search is over, but not as
Nick Crowley. Is that not your name?
the way anyone
Oh,
wanted to see.
I thought it was like the next name of the... Oh my gosh, I'm dumb. I should have just let it play. But wow, chat. How do y'all feel about that? That's crazy to me. To me, it's kind of like... bro. If all this shit makes sense, what evidence do you need to have? Like, sometimes the lack of evidence is evidence. You know what I'm saying? That's what people say about Jesus. The lack of evidence is evidence. Feel me?
Vivas que não recomendamos para crianças nem para pessoas sensíveis.
Recently, I discovered something truly distressing. I was being double charged for Netflix,
George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, were going on a camping trip. This is a beautiful spot to set up camp, George. George turned around and saw something scary.
The fuck?
It was a thin trail of smoke.
There seems to be something innately interesting about survival shows. For decades, audiences have been enamored by depictions of people pushing themselves to the limit in order to survive harsh and almost inhumane conditions. Most notably, and one of the more tame examples, is Survivor, which no doubt popularized the genre, as it isn't just a staple of television in the US, but all the other countries that have since created their own versions of the show. In France, the show is called Koh-Lanta and was created back in 2001 by the company Adventureline Productions, or ALP for short. And by the year 2015, the show was one of the most popular in its market, having seen 13 successful seasons. And so, riding the high of this impressive feat, ALP decided to try their hand at a new show, one that was far more daring.
Hur fasen ska detta gå?
No food. No map. They just get dropped off
The show
somewhere?
was called Dropped and would follow 2 teams of 4 contestants who would be blindfolded and dropped into an undisclosed location each week via helicopter, with each team having the same mission: make it to civilization, charge a phone, and make a rescue call. And the first team to do so would win, while the losing party would have to vote one member off. It was a fairly interesting idea, but it also already had a proof of concept, as there was actually an identical show being made in Sweden at the time that was already well received. Though Dropped wanted to turn up the interest even more, and that's exactly what they did when they announced that the cast would be composed solely of famous athletes, most of whom turned out to be French Olympians who were already well beloved in the country. It had all the makings.
That's kind of cool. That's a cool idea, but it's like, you don't have to put niggas' life in danger for entertainment. Like, there's other ways you could do this. You can make it fake. Don't make it real. It don't gotta be real.
A certain success, though in the end, this show would never actually make it to television, with the showrunners proclaiming that the program would not see the light of day. And this was all thanks to the events of March 9th, 2015.
2015, 10 years ago? I know you feel old. 2015 was 10 years ago. It's time to lock in.
It was the start of their second episode. The first had seen the elimination of professional footballer Sylvian Wiltord after his team failed to make it out of the wilderness first, which left 7 contestants who were now ready for round 2. The day's shoot began in La Rioja, Argentina, with the cast being blindfolded in preparation to be loaded up into their helicopters and dropped at their next location. Olympic gold medal swimmer Alan Bernard into their helicopters and dropped at their next location.
He's throwing a YBL
Olympic gold medal
2015.
swimmer Alan Bernard was one of the first to step onto the craft, but was quickly told to exit, as his team had been the first to be dropped in the last episode, meaning that to make it fair, it was time for the other group to go first, thus giving them slightly more time. And so he stepped off the craft and waited with his group, as the other team instead loaded in. There were 2 helicopters on the scene. One was set to carry 3 contestants: Florence Atu, Samuel Mouffet,
I like the French name, Mouffet.
and Alexis
Batu.
Fastine.
What is he, a boxer? Okay. Oh yeah, I
along
know
with
he
a
be
crew
beating
member
niggas'
and 1
asses.
pilot. Meanwhile, the other craft was strictly for the crew, holding 4 production workers as well as a single pilot, with Alan Bernard and his group staying on the ground with their backs turned to the craft, as they eagerly anticipated the return of those helicopters to then take them. And so, with their blindfolds on in the pitch darkness, the team listened as they heard the sounds of the crew cheering on a successful takeoff, though the cheering would be cut short by an awful sound: the sound of crushing metal.
The plane crashed? Whoa, athletes died? Oh my gosh. Bro, this is 2015, bro. What phone was out in 20, like an iPhone 6. This is not an iPhone 6, nigga. What phone did you have? This nigga recorded this. This nigga pulled a leaf off one of these branches and started recording with it, bro.
The aftermath was recorded on the cell phone of someone standing nearby,
That's not a
showing
cell
us a large
phone.
group of
It's a
people
leaf.
rushing towards a massive plume of smoke.
This he's drawing lines with sticks. has gas in it though, right? That bitch not gonna blow up?
where they would find the remains of one of the aircrafts, mangled and reduced to an unrecognizable mass of steel,
Damn.
with none of the contestants being able to make sense of what had just happened. It's very possible that the incident itself was captured by the production's own cameras. However, this footage has never and likely will never be released.
Yeah.
Though coincidentally, they weren't the only ones recording, as someone watching nearby just so happened to be filming the takeoff of these two crafts, showing us the reality of what had just transpired.
There's footage? Oh, bro, there's footage of everything, bro. Did they hit each other or what? They did. Oh, man, that's
Just
wild.
as the two aircrafts had taken to the sky, the second and lowest helicopter began rapidly ascending, with the pilot seemingly failing to realize that the other craft was directly above them, causing the two to collide and then plummet to the ground below. In the end, 10 people went into the sky, and none made it down alive.
Damn. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking. Like, look at that shit, bro. It don't look like nobody was gonna be alive from that shit, bro. One, there's gasoline in the... any motor vehicle has to be operated with gasoline. So if your shit is smoking, it's going to blow up, or it's already blew up. There's gas... gasoline is the most flammable shit ever. We gotta find a way to power our cars without something that's so flammable so that we can reduce the likeliness of cars exploding. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And 10 people
I understand
went
the battery and shit can still explode, but like having all that gasoline, like, it's
into
crazy.
the sky, and none made it down alive.
R.I.P., bro. That's a bunch of athletes.
The footage makes little
Olympic
sense even
athletes.
today. The weather was perfect, the crafts were some of the best in the world, and both of the pilots not only had 30 plus years of flying experience, but they were both flight instructors themselves. Not to mention that the show's security coordinator, who was in charge of facilitating the takeoff, had actually worked on the Swedish version of the show and had ample experience in this exact situation. And yet, this is how it ended.
I like this music.
It was eventually determined that the higher helicopter was likely flying out of visual contact from the lower helicopter, and that the pilot of the ascending chopper likely just didn't realize how close they were, with reports also indicating that he may have been distracted by the actual filming process, something we've tragically seen before.
Wow.
We're gonna pull out. We don't know what has just happened right there.
What the fuck?
And because of this, it appeared that at least some pilot error was to blame. But it was ALP that was found largely responsible, with alleged serious safety oversights being discovered later on, with it appearing that this crash was the result of multiple small factors coming together to form
Yeah.
one catastrophic accident.
Yeah, no cap.
After the incident, Dropped was swiftly canceled.
A lot of companies try to just cut corners and, you know what I'm saying, save money, save time, whatever the case is, make shit easier for them, and then some shit like this happens. When you cut too many corners, it catches up to you.
to form one catastrophic accident. After the incident, Dropped was swiftly canceled, while the team that had so narrowly avoided getting on that flight and in turn likely having perished themselves were left in complete and utter shock, forever changed by the accident. With Alan Bernard, the man that's said to have been
Oh, yeah.
physically on that doomed craft for a split second, later recounting that
Wow.
there was a life before and after Dropped, because you don't come out of such an accident unscathed. In the end, AOP was indicted on manslaughter charges and found to be an inexcusable fault for the disaster, though it doesn't really seem like they faced any sort of actual legal punishment, with the company continuing their work on other programs to this day. But one thing that I was surprised to find in my research was that AOP is actually no stranger to the world of disturbing television moments. In fact,
They got
they'd
two in here?
experienced one just a single year before this accident.
What the fuck?
As mentioned previously, ALP was already quite versed in the world of survival television, as they had run 13 successful seasons of Koh Lanta. Though what I failed to mention is that the company had actually
my-
produced 14 seasons.
I don't know if my shit is lagging
Or
or
at
if that was
least
the
to
video.
make survival
Let me see.
television, as they had run 13 successful seasons of Koh Lanta.
Oh,
Though
no,
what
that's
I
just-
failed
that's
to
just the
mention
video.
is that the company had actually produced 14 seasons,
Mm.
or at least they attempted to. It was season 13, during the very first day of filming, when contestant Jara Baban collapsed after the show's second challenge, with the show continuing to film as if nothing happened. Anonymous reports from the set claim that once on the ground, it took the medical team nearly 5 minutes before intervening, as to not interrupt their recording, and once they eventually did tend to him, he became more alert and complained of having severe cramps. But the show's primary doctor, Terry Costa, didn't believe that his ailments required an emergency airlift, as this would have cost the production company far too much money, especially on the first day of...
Fuck, he didn't think it needed it. He did not want to have to deal with that fine. He didn't want to have to pay for the shit, so he said, fuck it, we're just gonna fucking not give a fuck about this nigga life, because it's too much money.
Filming. Instead, Gerard was diagnosed with dehydration and was brought back to their makeshift infirmary, where he would lay for nearly 2 full hours, until he was finally taken away by a proper medical team.
After death of
On his way off the island, Gerard Babin would pass away from cardiac arrest at the age of just 25. Cardiac arrest that
25? Cardiac arrest at 25. Wow.
pass away from cardiac arrest at the age of just 25. Cardiac arrest that was completely missed by the show's doctors. The testimony from those on the scene painted ALP and Dr. Costa in an extremely negative light, as their inability to act quickly and recognize the ailments of Baban likely contributed to the young man losing his life, with some claiming that the doctor and the showrunners were far more interested in keeping the production running smoothly than actually caring for the young man.
Of course.
And though ALP denied any wrongdoing, the season would essentially be cancelled right there on the spot. But disturbingly, despite the filming lasting only one day, Baban's death wasn't the only tragedy to occur as a result.
Bro, how many bodies do these ALP niggas have? When are we gonna shut them down? Does cancer culture only exist in America? Probably. But like, bro, can we cancel these niggas, dude? They have 3 bodies. What a coward. What a coward. What a coward. Maybe he just genuinely didn't know. Nah, fuck that. You're a coward, bro. You're gonna take your own life after you took another's life because you couldn't deal with the backlash and the consequences for it. That's the most pussy shit ever.
Due to intense public ridicule, Dr. Terry Costa would end his life just days later, stating that all the negative news reports about him were wrong and that they had sullied his good name, writing in a final note, "I'm sure that I treated Jira in a respectable manner, as a patient and not as a contestant," adding, "Having to reconstruct this destroyed reputation would be unbearable," before ending his letter with a message to those on the shoot that had spoken out against him. The author of the anonymous comments about the circumstances of Jira Baban's death and those who spread them will have to face their conscience. In the end, Koh Lanta would return a year later and has been going strong ever since, as ALP did not appear to face any serious repercussions for the incidents that
They got 3 bodies. 3 bodies. 2 bodies that done died trying to do their show, and the 3rd person killed themselves. Who is signing up for this show? Who in their right mind is signing up for this shit? I would never do this, ever.
Fired under their watch, with their faults in both cases being debated to this
God
day.
damn. I didn't mean to do that. What?
Cases being debated to this day. Transpired under their watch, with their faults in both cases being debated to this day.
Alright, this is just one of his little transitions. He like doing this.
Emergência 911, a vida como ela é na tela do SBT.
It's July 5th, 1993, in downtown Sao Paulo, Brazil. A doorman working at a busy office
Sao
building looks up...
Paulo. Shout out to Sao Paulo, Brazil. I love all my Brazilians. Shout out to Sao Paulo, Brazil. The weekend show was crazy. I hope y'all enjoyed that. Y'all got previewed one of the greatest songs to come out this year. You feel me? It's the most streamed weekly rap song on Spotify. Shout out to Sao Paulo.
In downtown Sao Paulo, Brazil. A doorman working at a busy office building looks up to the sky and notices a woman sitting on top of the structure, her legs dangling 7 stories above the pavement below, one wrong move away from certain death. Precisely what she wanted.
Exactly.
The man
Yeah, I
calls the
figured.
police immediately, though surprisingly, they wouldn't be the first on the scene, and instead, they were beaten by a camera crew.
What the fuck?
The group is from the show Aki Agora, a news program from the network SBT that had become notorious for their sensationalized and shocking stories. In their history, they had captured live footage of police riots, kidnappings, and even murders, which they would then broadcast on air as part of their show. And this unfolding situation was their content for the day.
This nigga eyes ain't even. Never mind. This is crazy. So how the fuck do these niggas get word and get there before police do? How is that possible?
Nós fomos ver o que estava acontecendo. E quando nós chegamos ao local, o corpo de bombeiros chegou, os bombeiros chegaram junto conosco. O que é um suicídio? Onde? Nós vimos junto. Quando o bombeiro olhou pra cima, tava lá a menina, sentada no parapeito. E eu tomei um susto, a câmera olhou também, nós tomamos um susto.
Her name was Daniele Alves, and at the age of just 16, she had entered that office building and climbed up to its roof with the hopes of ending her life.
Damn.
And minutes after Aki Agora arrived,
At 16 years old, she is 16 years old, bro. And niggas are more worried about getting a correct angle of her than about whether she's mentally okay or not.
with the hopes of
This
ending
is
her
a
life.
16-year-old, bro.
And minutes after Aki Agora arrived, she did just that, as their cameras captured it all.
É terrível. Daqui a pouco aqui agora vai mostrar as imagens chocantes de uma jovem pulando para a morte. Atenção, são imagens exclusivas que não recomendamos para crianças nem para pessoas sensíveis.
Later that night, that footage would be packaged together into a roughly 10-minute segment, which the network promoted heavily throughout the day, hyping it up to be one of their most shocking episodes ever. And supposedly it was. As though it appears that the full segment is currently lost, the footage of Daniele's fall was said to have been displayed almost entirely in full, showing the moments just before and just after she had landed.
Damn.
Where she was said to be still somewhat alive. It was more than shocking, and left viewers outraged that something of this nature could be shown on TV. But while showing the footage proved highly controversial enough, it was the context surrounding the footage that made it even more depraved.
Talk to me.
As mentioned previously, police were called to the scene to assist in efforts to help Daniele Alves. Yet the first to arrive was that Aki Agora news crew. And this wasn't a coincidence. They were all about capturing events as they unfolded. And in order to be the first on the scene, they actually tapped into the police scanners, monitoring all of the calls and information being passed through officers in order to get leads on potential stories. Which is how they got word of this incident, hearing the calls and speeding over as quickly as possible. It wasn't illegal per se, but it surely wasn't ethical either.
It wasn't ethically right,
And this
yeah.
was only the start. After Daniele jumped, the crew that had filmed her had already captured their dramatic footage for the day. And as the officers and medical personnel dealt with the aftermath, the crew decided to turn their focus to the next element of their story, Daniele's parents. They packed up their equipment right away and headed straight for the home of Daniele's mother and father, with it being unclear how they even got that address in the first place.
Facts.
And there,
Like,
they once
what?
again had beaten the police, who were still back at the scene trying to piece everything together. Though rather than waiting for them, the crew instead decided to take the lead, going up to the door, ringing the doorbell, and telling Daniele's parents that their daughter had just passed away.
That's so
The crew then
fucked.
supposedly took the parents to the police station, consoling them all while their cameras kept rolling, as the crying parents made for the perfect
That's
footage
so
for their
fucked.
segment.
That's so fucked.
Exploitative.
That's literally
is
the most
only
fucked
word
shit
for it.
ever.
But what they did next, well, that was something far more evil. Having dropped the parents off at the police station, the crew then got to work creating their segment for the night. And as part of it, they needed to find a reason as to why Daniele did this. They first theorized that this was likely due to a drug addiction which had somehow spiraled and led to her jumping. But then they decided that that just wasn't dramatic enough, and they instead shifted to a different story. One that they reported to all of their viewers as if it were a fact.
So they
They
lied?
reported that Daniele Alves had ended her own life because of her abusive parents,
What?
placing the entire blame on the family that they had
What
just
the
supposedly helped.
fuck?
And there was one massive issue with this. It wasn't even true.
What the
The claim appears to have
fuck?
been quite literally based on nothing. It has no verifiable backing and seems to have been a complete guess. In fact, just
That's
days
so
later, Daniele's best
ass.
friend spoke out and said that Daniele had done this because of a broken heart, not because of drugs or any sort of abuse. It's sickening, as the
That's
crew cared
crazy.
so little about Daniele's own story.
Y'all, don't focus on any boys or girls. Please, y'all. Focus on yourself. Focus on making yourself the best version you can be. And you'll find somebody naturally that's focusing on themselves and making themselves the best version they can be. Why are you settling to be average for the love of your life? If you won't do it for yourself, why are you settling to be average for the love of your life? You know what I'm saying? I want the love of my life to say she has the best, greatest, you know what I'm saying, nigga ever. You feel me? So, you gotta find a reason why to live. You shouldn't live for love. That should not be why you live. Living to find a husband or whatever. Like, Pete, like, I would talk to girls and, like, I ask what they want to do with their lives and they say find a rich husband, like, and be a housewife. Like, bitch, what? You don't have any goals or aspirations. You just want to leech off a rich nigga and throw him some pussy and clean. Like, that's not like, what? You don't have a purpose. Like,
Said that Daniele had done this because of a broken heart, not because of drugs or any sort of abuse. It's sickening, as the crew cared so little about Daniele's own story that they seemingly just made up their own. And imagine for a moment being those parents, going about your day when a TV crew comes to your house and tells you that your daughter is dead. And despite consoling you, those same people
and then
broadcast
lies
your daughter's death for the whole world to see and blame you for it. Naturally, this didn't go without repercussions for Aki Agura, who had crossed the line in the most soulless way possible, and the effects were swift and powerful.
They deserve jail time.
As the rating soared,
the programs aired in shows everybody, increasing the program
33%, making it more popular than ever before. The network would end up being sued by Daniele's family, who was eventually awarded $1 million as a result.
That's not enough.
But realistically, no amount of money could ever be enough.
That's not enough. Like, there's good, okay, no money amount of money would be enough, but there's a good number. They should have at least got one, right? They should have got all the revenue that their entire gross of what they earned from lying and airing that child's death. They should have earned everything, every single penny. STB should see no money from that whole day, right? So whatever that is, and then I say plus an extra like 2 to 3 million for defaming and all kind of shit.
Awarded $1 million as a result, but realistically, no amount of money could ever be enough, as the show's actions permanently affected that family and destroyed their grieving process in a way that I can't even wrap my mind around. But this did little to slow down Aki Agura, as they remained on the air for 4 more long years, during which they leaned even more into these unfolding crime stories, leading to them witnessing numerous other deaths, and even being taken hostage themselves on multiple occasions. And the more I researched this topic, the more insane the segments I found became, with by far the worst being an old episode where they recorded a man who was threatening to jump off a bridge. It was a very similar situation to Daniele, though this time the crew was much closer, so close in fact, that the host actually moved in and started interviewing the man as he was hanging there. All the while, they kept cutting back and forth to another camera angle below the bridge, ready to capture his fall at any moment.
What the
Now, thankfully, this person was pulled to safety, but even as he was being taken away, the presenter still kept trying to interview him in one of the most surreal scenes that I've ever seen in my life. With this situation perfectly encapsulating this show, Aki Agura would continue on air until the year 1997, when one day the show was pulled due to its declining ratings. And in its place, the network would instead begin airing the Disney Club.
The Disney Club? Oh shit. Oh shit. Disney? Oh my god.
You look down the track and there is a train coming toward you. What do you think would happen?
It was an exciting day for the crew of the upcoming movie Midnight Rider, the Greg Allman story. Years had been spent planning and scripting for this biographical film about Greg Allman of the Allman Brothers. And this day, February 20th, 2016, would be the day that they would finally start filming. It was nothing more than a camera test, a day in which the crew would practice filming, as well as getting acquainted to their equipment and new co-workers. But for the group of 20, the excitement in the air was palpable, as they were given access to
Put the beam to his face. I turn him in and runs. Caleb J. Perdue, is it David Blunt?
To a stunning piece of land in Nahunta, Georgia. So stunning, in fact, that the film's director, Randall Miller, just couldn't wait to begin the actual process of filming. Slicing through the property was an old railroad that had crossed over a scenic bridge raised high above the Altamaha River.
Okay.
The perfect location.
I can already see where he's going, especially with what he played earlier.
For a
that
shot
little
that
creepy
Miller had
clip
been envisioning.
at the beginning.
It was set to be a dream sequence where Allman's character would wake up on a hospital bed in the middle of the tracks and see a vision of his brother. And it was a shot that Miller just had to have. However, there was...
So that's a good shot, but there's a, like, I could already see the problem forming.
One major issue. The crew was given permission to film on the property, but not the actual railway, as this was owned by a separate company named CSX. And when Miller asked them for permission to film the shot, he was denied multiple times, as these tracks were still very active, making it far too dangerous. But being on location and seeing that bridge, Miller couldn't help himself.
Like, really think about it. Like, this area right here, this right here, okay, if you're right here, cool, you could just get up and go right here. But right here, if he's talking about right here, like directly on the bridge, and it's like a on shot, so it's gonna look like this right here isn't that long, but this is probably a long ass bridge of this area right here where there's nowhere to go off to the side. You know what I'm saying? It's probably like that, like a few, like a good amount of feet, like 300-400 feet down. You know what I'm saying? It's tough.
And so he directed his crew to set up the scene anyway, believing that they could quickly steal a shot without anyone noticing. Miller had supposedly done his research too, and discovered that only 2 trains were set to roll through the area that day, and he knew the general intervals in which they were supposed to pass. Based on this, he figured that those trains wouldn't arrive for a few hours, giving them more than enough time to film the movie's very first scene. And so they quickly set everything up, rolling out a metal hospital bed and placing it towards the center of the bridge, with Miller assuring his crew that this was in fact safe, and that they had nothing to worry about.
Bro, and it wasn't.
As the camera began to roll.
And it wasn't, dude.
Minutes later, the bed began to shake, and the silence around them was shattered by the sound of a whistle.
I'm getting up out
Before
that bed.
them was an unexpected 3rd train, heading straight for the bridge that the entire crew was now on. Miller had gotten the schedule wrong. At this point, the crew was filming a considerable distance into the bridge, but the shortest and really only route to safety was to go towards the oncoming train. And so that's precisely the route they took, and as they did so, there was little panic within the group, as rather than rushing to safety, they all seemed more focused on retrieving their equipment, believing that they had more than enough time to salvage everything. As after all, losing this expensive equipment on day 1 would have been devastating for the production. They likely had no idea that from the sound of that first whistle, they had just 60 seconds until the train would cross that bridge.
That's too much time.
Whether they were off it or
nigga, 60 seconds? I'm getting out of there, nigga. I'm not going back. Like,
not.
That's more than enough
time. As they
time.
began to realize just how quickly the train was approaching, their movements became more hurried, which is where one major problem occurred. That metal hospital bed. It was incredibly heavy on its own, and though it was designed to roll, its wheels kept getting caught on the tracks.
On the rocks, yeah.
And worst of all, it was set up horizontally, which essentially turned it into a barricade. And despite their best efforts to save everything, their time was up, and as the camera continued rolling, the train would arrive.
Let's go! Let's go! That bitch coming, nigga! I'll be screaming, nigga. Let's go, nigga.
At this moment, the train itself also had a camera rolling, which showed that even in those final moments, the crew was still trying to salvage their equipment. What happened next was a blur. Some were able to leap to safety, while others managed to jump to the side and cling onto the bridge. But there was still one thing that remained in the train's path. That hospital bed, which, upon impact, was torn to pieces. Pieces that were flung all over the area, striking multiple crew members and leaving many injured. But it was 27-year-old filming assistant Sarah Jones.
She
who was
died?
struck by the largest fragment, with a force so strong that it caused her to fall directly in front of the train.
Oh.
In total, 7 crew members were hurt but alive, while Sarah Jones had tragically been killed.
Oh, all that for a shot.
On the very first day of production, in the very first shot, the unthinkable had happened. And when it came to passing the blame, most turned their attention to Randall Miller, as he was the one who ordered the scene to be shot despite being denied permission numerous times. And this public disdain towards him only grew as he and his production company denied any responsibility, and instead, they blamed the railway company. Just 1 week after the incident, Randall Miller requested a new permit to begin filming Knight Rider once again, asking if they can begin as soon as possible. This, however, would never actually happen, as he was instead arrested and given a 1-year prison sentence for manslaughter, as well as a 10-year ban from directing any films, a mandate that he would actually go on to break, though he was swiftly forgiven, and today he continues to direct. But while it's easy to focus on the morbid nature of this
What
case,
the fuck is a
and the man
10-year ban
responsible
for if you're just gonna...
There was one unexpected outcome of this horrific accident. Upon her passing, Sarah Jones' parents set up a foundation called Safety for Sarah, which pushed for safer working conditions on film sets,
Facts.
with the movement bringing to light a number of safety concerns that were often brushed aside and ignored.
That's good.
And all in all, their efforts have made TV and film sets significantly safer, giving their daughter a purpose even after her death.
Even after, yep.
On top of this, Sarah Jones was also honored by countless production companies across the world, as crews began writing her name on their film slates, with there ultimately being over 2,000
Really? Oh, that's sweet.
of these tributes for her, from some of the world's most well-known productions. But by far the biggest tribute was when she was honored at that year's Academy Awards ceremony, a stage that she always dreamed of making it to.
R.I.P., bro. That's sad as
Saw her name up on
fuck.
the
I ain't gonna lie.
stage at the Academy Awards.
That's sad as fuck.
Overwhelming. She made it to the academy.
Damn, I'm about to fucking like tear up, bro. That's sad as fuck. That's sad as fuck, bro. That's sad as fuck.
I wanted to give one last quick shout out to Rocket Money.
That is sad as fuck, bro. Damn, that was a great video. All the Nick Crowley's videos are fucking amazing. Shout out to Nick Crowley. He makes great YouTube videos, bro. Like, his videos are actually fucking, like, ridiculous, bro. Like, it's crazy how good this nigga's videos are. The editing, the thumbnails, the everything, bro. Shout out to Nick Crowley, bro. GOAT.